We mentioned Josh Rosen at the top of the segment, but I think heading into last season, the expectation was that Rosen was going to be the best one. Jim Mora had bandied him about as being a potential future #1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Now, Kennedy Polamalu, he's out as the offensive coordinator at UCLA. Polamalu had replaced Noel Mazzoni. Now Jed Fish, Michigan's quarterback coach, he's going to be the new OC for the Bruins. Now, Brady, how difficult is it for a quarterback, Josh Rosen in this case, to deal with 3 coordinators in 3 seasons and on the collegiate level, no less?
Well, it's extremely hard because every single time you start to think you're building a foundation, you're able to revert back to the terminology you used the year before with the way you're communicating to your teammates. Wipe it clean. It's like a big dry erase board with all these notes, all this terminology for it. Wipe it clean. And so you just learned Spanish last year. Now you're learning Portuguese. Next you're learning Russian. I mean, that's what it is. You're learning a new language to communicate with everyone else with, and that's the toughest part about it. Now, maybe Jed Fish will come along and he'll say, all right, let's keep some things the same to what you had last year. I'll adjust. I'm not going to make you and the rest of the team adjust. But at the end of the day, it's incredibly difficult to get used to a new system and even the footwork and the way you go about reading things. Because once all of a sudden you get in that live game scenario, it's hard to snap back into what exactly you're trying to do now versus what you did in the past based on all those reps you had a season ago running a different system.
And DJ, you can speak to this as well. This is a pretty unbelievable stat. I almost didn't believe it when you told me. You're 11 years in the National Football League. You had 10 different defensive coordinators.
Yes, and I had 11 linebacker coaches. One time a guy was a linebacker coach and the D coordinator, but then last year, he just decided to just be a D coordinator. But it's very difficult. You mentioned about the terminology, and it got to the point that sometimes that a coach would call something, he would say, I'll just give a generic name for a follow route. But last year we called it Hillsborough. So when he would say follow route to me, instead of saying follow route in my head, I would say Hillsborough, but I would have to implement and tell that to my teammate that way. But then when I'm in my stance and I'm out there on the field, I'm second guessing and I'm rethinking. It wasn't until I went to Chicago and I played next to Lance Brigg and I saw him play in the same defensive scheme. Yes, he had multiple coordinators, but the scheme had the same terminology. And I was jealous. I felt like I was robbed. I felt I was robbed. I felt I could have been a much better player to see a guy in the same scheme with the same terminology running and doing the same thing year in and year out. His comfortability level was this high and mine was very low.